All right.
Got it. So let's see the attendees.
So just us right now?
For now, it's just us.
All right, you on top?
So, welcome. It's great of all of you to come here. So, yeah, welcome. We are 3 members of the Math Success Team. Woohoo! And I'm Gary Felder.
I'm Valerie Joseph.
And I'm Daniel Schultes.
And just to make sure you're aware, you can type into the chat window anytime if you want to ask specific questions. There should be a button on the bottom of your screen that says chat to open that up. We also have questions that came in ahead of time that we'll be answering sort of on a rolling basis.
And you are here because you want to know more about ALEKS.
And more generally about math success at Smith, I assume.
Yes, because that's what our team does. We are interested in helping support students in their success as they navigate math classes.
And that means a lot of different things. It's not just for people who are interested in math specifically. Because if you're interested in any science or engineering, economics discipline that uses a fair amount of mathematics, getting off on that right foot can be very important.
Yes, and it's worth noting, a lot of people, when they think of those disciplines, don't necessarily think of pre-health, which is also a discipline where you really need to take math and also apply those math skills.
Don't you need math? Don't you need Calc 1? Or
you need calculus for pre-health.
Pre-health. 1 and 2?
Just one.
Just one. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you pre-health.
And then you also, you need physics, which uses the calculus.
There you go. So pre-health people, you need this. You need Calc 1, you need physics, which you need the calc to help you with the physics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it the other way around? No.
Yeah, no, you do the calculus first.
Yeah,
and then
calculus
the physics
first.
And the good news is, you've made it into Smith. You have what it takes to succeed. And Smith has many, many resources to help support everyone taking math and science courses. And really what this program is about is helping everyone who's coming in and doing any of those math science courses to help figure out what's the best combination of resources for you. Every student is going to make use of the many, many resources at Smith, and every student's going to do it in some unique combination. And this is a way for you to help start figuring out what's the best combination for you.
What I love about this conversation is it's about being strategic. Thinking about how you can be successful in ways that work best for you. And so you're being strategic about it. Okay, here I am, it's the summer, I have this information about ALEKS. How can I use it to help me be more successful?
So shall we start answering some of the questions that we've gotten?
Let's start it.
Let's start.
Already? So we've got, how do I get started with ALEKS?
So I guess I'll take that.
Sure.
All right, so in the email that you received, there was a link to get started with ALEKS. And when you go to the website, you can create your account, just log in using your Smith College credentials, so username and password, and everything's paid for. You don't have to do anything else. And it actually starts with a tutorial. So a tutorial that will help you do an initial assessment and sort of see what you remember, what you have, let's face it, forgotten because it's the summertime and that happens. And just sort of where you're at right now. And I think one of the important things to bear in mind as you go through that process is, as with many things, it has very little to do with, or where you're at now has little to do with where you can be.
Mm-hmm.
We're interested in helping you reach there, wherever there might be. But it starts with an honest assessment. So working through that initial assessment, and that can take a couple hours. It's a series of, I believe, 30 questions.
Yes.
And it tailors a little bit as you take it. And then once you reach the end, it'll have an entire sort of pie chart of results that'll say, oh, you're fantastic at exponentials and logarithms, but maybe you want to brush up on trig a little bit, and broken down by category. And that can be helpful, Valerie, as you were saying, being strategic, thinking about, are there specific areas that you want to think about a little more? You're completely ready for calculus or what have you, but just a few hours spent thinking about something, one particular topic, could be really helpful. And that's what ALEKS helps you get started doing.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also worth saying in connection with this idea of what can you do with ALEKS, how do you get started using ALEKS? There shouldn't be a problem if you click on the link, use your Smith credentials, but if for whatever reason you're having a problem with it, you can always email that address, mathsuccess@smith.edu, and someone will get back to you very quickly with tech support, dealing with, if you do run into any problems. But we've had hundreds of students use ALEKS, and very few had technical problems logging in. Excuse me. Next question we had is, why am I being asked to use ALEKS? Or as one person put the question, why me? I don't want to take some online testing over the summer.
Well, you're being asked to use ALEKS because you've indicated that you're interested in some field that needs math. And because we want to help you be as successful as possible, we're offering this to you as a possibility of something you could do. You do not have to do it. We're offering it to you. We think it's a resource for you to use, and if you would like to, then go to it.
And I would add to that also, that's crucial, this idea that you don't have to do it. And if you do, and we certainly encourage you to, we think it's a really helpful resource, it will be used for nothing but your information, helping you make choices. We will not use it for placement. We will not use it for credit. The only thing that will happen with your ALEKS results is that it will give you information to help you make choices at Smith. And you will get a follow-up email at some point, just saying, hey, we see, this is what your ALEKS results showed. Here are some suggestions. That is entirely up to you. Take them, don't take them. We also encourage you, once you finish the initial assessment, to use the online learning modules, help review things that it suggests that you need to review. But again, it's entirely for your benefit.
That's right.
And as far as why during the summer, because we don't like to enjoy our summers, when you get here in the fall, your time is going to quickly be filled with many things. First with orientation, and then with classes and all manner of extracurricular activities. And right now is the time that you might actually have a few spare minutes to think about what could be most beneficial down the line. Whereas when you're sort of here and doing everything, it's very difficult to find that time to think ahead instead of what you're doing this moment.
Right. We're sure you have some busy summers. We're hoping that you're having fun, but we think that you may have some time to breathe, to think about what kinds of moves you want to make to start off your math journey in the best way. And so we're assuming that summer is the best time. And so, again, you don't have to do it. We think it's a good idea for you to at least try it, see if it works for you, and see what happens. It might be excellent. It might be excellent. It might be just what you need.
And it's worth noting that when we've done this in the past, a very strong majority of students who took it. We surveyed them afterwards and they said, yes, this was useful, this was worthwhile.
Yeah.
This was a good use of my time. Next question was, how long will it take to answer the questions? And how long does this whole thing take? Well, Dan mentioned that already. It's going to vary. There's no one answer and there's no hard time limit. You can take as long as you need. And you can do it in more than one session. You can get partway through, stop, and then pick it up again later. Generally speaking, most people find that the initial assessment takes about 2 to 3 hours. And then the learning modules take as long as you are comfortable putting into them, essentially. It's just a nearly endless library of review materials, and no one's going to go through all of it. But what ALEKS does that's really useful is after you complete the assessment, you don't just have this giant library opened up in front of you. You have a big button that says something like Start My Learning Path. I don't remember the exact wording. And it will use your results to figure out, here's probably the most useful learning module. And you do that, and maybe you spend half an hour doing that. And then you decide, okay, do I want to go on and do some more, and so on. So it's really up to you to customize how much you use those learning modules. We would strongly encourage that you use a few and see how useful you find them, because many people found them very useful in the past. But the assessment itself, again, typically 2 to 3 hours. And well, this one we've already touched on a lot, but we can address it more directly. What happens after I do this assessment?
So a variety of things. I think I'll dive in. Gary, you just talked about immediately afterwards you have access to that entire library of learning modules. And again, no one's expecting anyone is going to work through the entire list, but it keeps giving recommendations of this might be another good thing for you based on where things stood at the beginning. And so just sort of filling in a few things to help get you, all set for the fall. Other ways that this can be useful, thinking a little further down the line, is when you get here, a lot of the people on the math success team are available to meet one-on-one, particularly in that first week or two, to figure out what might or how you might use this in the context of your math class or with the various resources here. So for example, I've met with students afterwards, say in that first week, and we looked at, they called up their results, we looked through and something like that, oh, you're great in many different areas, and trig looks like it was a little bit rough. It turns out that we have a quantitative skills center here on campus, and while they have many different resources that they offer, one of the things they do is very topic-specific review sessions. And without going through ALEKS, you might not actually be sure on what would be useful things to do, but having gone through it, you can say, oh, the one on trig is happening on September, whatever, schedule's not actually set yet. But that would be an excellent thing to do. And so instead of investing a lot of time into reviewing many, many things, it lets you pick and choose the ones that you know would be most beneficial to you.
Yeah, also worth noting, once you do that initial assessment, you use a few of the learning modules, you also have the option, if you want to go back and redo the assessment and get an updated set of results saying, well, okay, now you've mastered these topics and here's some that you may still want to do a review on.
What I love about this is that some of us are tempted to say, I'm terrible at X, whatever it is. I'm terrible at geometry, or I'm terrible at trigonometry, or I'm terrible at calculus. But the fact is, you probably have some strengths as well as weaknesses, and taking the ALEKS will actually help define what you are weak in and what you are strong in, so that you can actually go to the Quantitative Learning Center and say, ALEKS tells me that I'm actually weak in this thing. And so it sort of hones in on what you need. And you can go to your math professor and say the same thing. It seems like I'm weak in this. And so the math professor can say, great, I know exactly what to do, because I would not be one of those people who would know exactly what to do, but these folks do.
And I also feel obliged to say, I think that's a really good point. But that phrasing, I am weak at X, I think people greatly misinterpret that from what it actually means, which is I currently don't have facility with this, to, oh, I'm just not the kind of person who can do that. My brother is a high school math teacher, and he's talked to me about this phenomenon that he observes over and over, because he gets to see people go through math course after math course for 4 years, and he will see the same people. And I think this is just human nature. We all do this, who, you know, they come in convinced, oh, I am not an algebra person. I can't do algebra. And then they learn algebra, and they do it a bunch, and it becomes second nature to them. And they'll still cheerfully come in and think, okay, but I'm not a trig person. I'm watching you do that trig. It's Greek to me. I have no idea what you're doing. I couldn't possibly ever learn that. And it's so much a part of human nature. Once we've mastered something, we realize, oh, okay, I can do that. And the next thing you see someone do it, it looks impossible. And the instinct is, oh, they're just different from me. I couldn't do that.
Right.
So you really want to think what any skill that you're thinking, oh, I'm weak at that, that may be true. But that's, as Dan said, it's a statement of where you are. It's not a statement of who you are.
In the moment.
And so, all of this is about just taking whatever skills you need to practice and get more facility at, and getting you that, so you're ready for what comes next.
Right.
It's truly amazing how people seem to focus on that with things in mathematics and sometimes other subjects, and yet you don't think of it with so many other skills that you pick up in life. Nobody picks up a soccer ball having never played before and says, I guess I'm not a soccer player. It just means you haven't practiced. Or, I mean, I don't play clarinet, and I don't know how to juggle, and I've never done many different things. But with that time, with that practice, you build these skills, and math, like any of these others, is something you build. And so we just want to figure out, where do we start? What do we focus
I think you kind of alluded to this, both of you, that a word to add to your vocabulary is a very simple 3-letter word, and that is the word yet. I don't know how to do calculus yet. You will know. You will. It'll take some time. It'll take some practice. You may have to go to tutoring. You'll go to office hours. You'll do whatever you have to do, but you will get better at it. As we're saying, you will practice. You'll work hard, and you'll get better, and you'll learn it. And then you'll go on to the next thing, which you don't know yet, but you will get better at it. What else do we have?
So yeah, I was about to say, should we move on? Well, the next question is really easy. Do I need my own calculator? No. There's nothing you need for ALEKS. It's all self-contained. Having said that, that is probably a good moment to reiterate something that was in the original email. What you do need is a computer. You don't want to do it on a phone or an iPod or even a touch tablet. It messes up the interface. You want to be on a computer. But that's all you need. You don't need to use anything else with it. Don't need reference books. You don't need to study for it, which is another thing worth saying. Because again, it's not an evaluation. It's not used for anything but information for you. So just take it. What you can answer, you can answer. What you can't, oh, okay, that's something you need to brush up on.
I will say that for some questions, there is a calculator actually built into ALEKS. And so if that ends up being necessary, it's actually there for you. That's part of why you don't need anything else. Anything you need is going to be built.
Cool.
All right. What kind of feedback does ALEKS give me?
So I
I
alluded
think
to
you,
this a little
yeah,
bit.
you did. Let's say it again.
Okay, so I believe what Alex calls it is your learning pie. It looks something like a pie chart. Each little wedge is color coded and it's a different area of mathematics, whether it's functions abstractly or trigonometry or exponentials and logarithms, whatever. And then in each of those categories, it'll tell you how many of sort of the subtopics in there it thinks you've already mastered. And so in trigonometry, maybe you go through and you'll say you've already mastered 49 out of 62 of the topics in there. And so that's fantastic. And it does this category by category so you can see where did I have a lot of mastery and where do I not? And again, this is yet. So there is no expectation in this that people are going to go through and get perfect. I mean, or anywhere near, right? If you did, that would be, I don't know, bizarre. Yes. Amazing, but bizarre. So, but that broken down by category, that's the information that it gives you to start, and that's also how it builds recommendations for which learning modules to look at. And if you sit down with one of us, that's what we'll look at to help figure out what would be resources in an appropriate class to help make sure that you can just keep moving forward.
So Dan said sitting down with one of us, it wouldn't be with me because I am not a STEM faculty, but he means the other people on the team, whom are just about all professors.
And it's worth saying, so there are a couple ways that you could do that. If you are looking to ALEKS results and you want to talk to someone about that, and again, we highly encourage that. It is the most useful thing you can do with your ALEKS results. One thing you can do is simply email that mathsuccess@smith.edu email and say, hey, you know, I'm coming to Smith, I'm showing up, you know, at orientation. I'd like to talk to somebody about my ALEKS results, and we'll make an appointment for you with someone appropriate. Or if there's a particular field that you know you have interest in, you can email somebody, you know, if you're going into physics. I'm Gary Felder, I'm on the Math Success team. I'm a great person to talk to. If you're interested in math, Dan Schultheis is a great person to talk to. If you're interested in engineering, Param in engineering, and so on. So you can contact someone, and you know, if you don't know who's on the Math Success team, that's fine. Anyone in those departments can help you. So you can either just directly contact the Math Success team and we can hook you up with someone, or you can talk to someone, you know, in pre-health or engineering or chemistry or whatever it is that you're interested in. And it's not a commitment that you're majoring in it. Just, hey, I'm interested in taking some chemistry courses. I know I need some math preparation for that. I'll go talk to a chemistry professor about my ALEKS results. Also worth saying in terms of the feedback ALEKS gives you, that Dan talked about the learning pie, because that is really the most useful feedback it gives you. It's not the only feedback it gives you, and it gives you some somewhat confusing other feedback. There'll be numbers, and honestly, my advice would be ignore it. The learning pie is going to have the useful feedback, and part of the reason ALEKS has these other things is because different schools use it for different purposes. So it has this sort of overload of information that it gives you after you finish the assessment, some of which is intended for schools that use it for assessment, which we do not. And so it just won't have any relevance to what you do with it at Smith. So I'd focus on that learning pie and what it guides you to in the learning modules. Okay, move on to the next question.
How will Smith use the feedback ALEKS gives me?
And that ever-present fear, does ALEKS go on my permanent record? No.
Smith doesn't use the feedback ALEKS will give you. You're going to use the feedback that ALEKS gives you. And you will, if you choose to, go to a professor and say, here's the feedback that ALEKS gave me. Can you help me move forward?
Yeah, and the only way it will be used other than that is, as I mentioned, someone on the math success team will look at your results and send you an email with some suggestions. Hey, here's a person it might be helpful for you to talk to, or here's something that you might think about doing when you get to Smith. That's not a full conversation, and I still urge you to meet with one of us and have a full conversation about those results, but it's just a preliminary set of suggestions. But again, it's all suggestions. Nothing gets done with ALEKS except what you choose to do with it. And your professors in general won't see it unless you show it to them. I think we've talked about that one a lot. What do I do after I get my ALEKS feedback?
Yep.
How should I prepare for ALEKS? Do I need to study for it? We already said, no, you don't. This, I think, is a really important one. And it's a cluster of questions, some of which we're including here because they've come up in the past, not just for this chat, but is ALEKS right for me if I feel like I'm very strong in math? Is ALEKS right for me if I feel like I'm really weak in math? Is ALEKS right for me if I already have IB, AP, whatever other results? Basically, it all boils down to whom is this intended for? And the answer is everyone who thinks they might take math at Smith. That's who ALEKS we think will be really useful for, regardless of your preparation, regardless of what courses you've taken, regardless of your comfort level with math. And it gets again to that idea, there's a wealth of resources at Smith. Tutoring and office hours and peer mentoring groups and review sessions. And everyone is going to make use of some individual mix of those. So no matter where you are in each of these many math skills that ALEKS is assessing, it'll give you helpful information to navigate all that.
Although it's not directly part of ALEKS, just because it tends to come up in these sorts of questions, I do want to say a little piece about that. What about AP? What about IB?
Yeah.
And this is part of a very important distinction. What we're talking about here, what ALEKS is useful for is helping you identify resources, helping you figure out what would be useful for you. It's not actually used in course placement in any way. Anyway, so course placement is its own thing. And if you have AP credit or IB credit transferred in, and you've talked to the registrar about that, that's wonderful. If you have questions about what course you should take, there are a number of people you can talk to about as well. You can talk to someone in the department that you're looking at, or when you get here in the fall, there's this wonderful event called Conversations that takes place where all of the incoming first years sort of cycle through, and they're representatives from every single department, and you can just go have one-on-one conversations with a variety of people and sort out questions related to your specific background and needs and what would be great there. So there are many opportunities to talk about course selection and transfer credit and all of these things. That's just not what ALEKS is intended to address, but there are plenty of resources there too.
I think part of what we're talking about is that you don't have to make assumptions or guess about what you should do. ALEKS helps you, as we said, get some information about where you are, and it helps you be strategic about where to go forward. And you're not guessing, okay, I took an AP, but how does that help me with a Smith class? Like, you don't have to guess when you take ALEKS. You get some information and you know more about where you are positioned in terms of your knowledge in different domains of math. And then you go to the professor and say, here's what ALEKS said. Can I go into this class? You know, you can get some more certainty about what you're doing. And that saves time. So this is the whole thing again about strategy. You don't want to waste time, and you don't want to waste energy, and you don't want to get nervous about things. You want to try to be calm, make good moves, and feel comfortable. as comfortable as you can be. It's going to be crazy for a while.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Just crazy.
Just crazy.
So we're actually about halfway through. I think this might be a good time for anyone who's joined us along the way if we reintroduce ourselves.
Sure.
Does that sound reasonable? Hi, so I'm Daniel Schultes. I teach in the Math and Statistics department, and in particular, I work a lot with the various introductory classes. So if you're thinking of taking a math class here, there's a good chance that I will see you in the next few years.
And I'm Gary Felder, and I teach in the physics department. And everyone in the physics department teaches intro physics. So also, if you're going to take physics or math or pre-health, good chance that I'll see you.
Hi, my name is Valerie Joseph. I'm the AIMS Mentoring Coordinator, and AIMS stands for Achieving Excellence in Math, Engineering, and Science. And I help to manage a bunch of programs that support students who are pursuing the sciences. And so while I'm not a professor, I'm not an instructor, I'm not a lecturer, but what I am is a resource for students who want to succeed, and I can help in various ways, including helping you get a peer mentor, for example, or giving you information about different fellowships that are available or different things that are going on campus. I'm a good person to know, so you should come to my office, which is Bass 112. It's all about the Bass, just so you know.
And there's a good general lesson for success at Smith. Valerie is a good person to know.
I'm a good person to know, but so are these folks as well. So we're all good people for you to know. One of the things about Smith that I think is just so wonderful is that, and maybe this is true for many places, but I know it's true for Smith, is that the professors here pour their heart into their teaching. They really, really, really care about you. So, I mean, maybe, there might be an exception. I haven't seen it. But please feel free, feel confident, feel like you have the right to go to any professor and ask for help, ask for information, because believe me, they want to give it to you. They want to help you. They want to help you succeed. And that is very true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's an issue that some incoming students have, especially if they're not used to being in a college environment, that if you go to a professor and ask for help, that somehow means you're not a good enough student. And pretty much everyone learns eventually, but the faster you learn it, the easier your life will be, is that it tends to be the opposite. The people who are really good at physics and math and engineering and who went on to be really successful in those fields, the people who became professors, we are the people who always asked our professors for help. I haunted my professors' offices because they were there to help me learn. And the more I took advantage of that, the more I learned. And that we are here for that. And it's hard for some incoming students to get over that anxiety about going to a professor's office. If you get over it and you do it that first time, you'll discover that it's not as scary as you think, and it's really useful. And we're delighted to have you there.
Can I say something on that? You mentioned everybody who ends up succeeding goes and talks to people. And I've said this for years, and I wanted something concrete because, let's face it, I'm a mathematician. I like numbers. And so last semester, for just 1 week, I kept track of how many students actually came and talked to me at some point, whether it was office hours or one-on-one appointments or whatever. And that semester, I had 74 students between my various classes, and I saw 52 of them in the week that I kept track. So far more than half stopped by just that week. So if you have a question, if you're not sure if you want to talk to someone, that is the norm by far.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to say something about that as well, because I grew up in a Caribbean family, and this may be true for other cultures, not just mine, but there's God, who's at the very top, and then right below God are your parents, and then just a tiny little bit below your parents are teachers. That's how I grew up. So the idea of just visiting your teacher at their office hours was something so foreign to me that I never went to a professor's office unless I was called to go. But I would never just show up, because that's not what I was enculturated to do. To my detriment. Because what that meant was it kept a distance between me and the professor, for one thing, professors, and also all the learning that I could have gotten, all the benefit that I could have gotten, I didn't get because I was so afraid, so hesitant to reach out. So some of you may have had that cultural learning that respect means distance. Respect means you don't go to the office hours. Respect means you don't say you don't know. And what might be a challenge for you, but is important for you to do, is to reject that lesson as not being helpful, not being strategic for the goal that you want to achieve. So yes, as they're saying, you need to go to the office hours and you need to talk to your professors. You need to ask questions. You need to raise your hand. And those are the people who are successful. The most successful students are the ones who ask questions. Full stop.
All right, well, I don't think any of us can top that, so should we move to the next question? Let's see, so we talked about that. Oh, this is worth addressing. What if I can't answer some of the questions while using ALEKS? And you talked about that. No one is going to get everything perfect, but beyond that, it can be intimidating when you're doing the ALEKS assessment, because there's probably going to be a lot of things that you can't answer. And you may at some point during the assessment start feeling, I'm just so far behind, there's so much I don't know. And you want to be aware that it's designed that way, and it's not designed that way to be mean. It's designed that way so that it can be the most useful tool for you possible. It's adaptive. Based on your answers to the first questions, it will decide which questions to ask you next. So it's trying to give you questions that are right at the edge of what you can do. So the assumption is that everybody should get a number of the questions that they aren't able to answer, and that's completely fine. And again, that's just giving you some information. Oh, you know, I need to brush up on solving algebra equations. And then you do, and you're fine.
So I took ALEKS. Plenty of stuff I didn't know. Plenty. But, you know, as Gary said, that's just going to be the case for everybody, because ALEKS throws everything, like there's a whole range of math stuff, right? So, of course, you're not going to know everything. So you just take it, you do your best, and then you keep it moving.
So I think we've addressed this. Whom should I contact with questions? Bottom line, if in doubt, email mathsuccess@smith.edu. And there are several of us in the group who see those emails, who regularly check that email account, and someone will get back to you very quickly. And it's a cliche thing to say, but it's so true. There's just no bad question. Anything you're wondering about, just ask, and we can help clear it up.
And some of you, when you heard that, you didn't believe it. You said, oh yeah, there's bad questions or stupid questions. But he's right. there's no stupid question, there's no bad question. They're just questions, so feel free to ask.
So we want to dive into this because this is a fairly big topic. It's an overarching topic here. And there are many different questions people have asked about this over the course of the years we've been doing this. What resources are available at Smith? You know, we keep talking about using ALEKS to help guide you towards different resources. Well, what are the resources we're talking about? And as I say, it's a big topic, but
I think we'll bounce it around.
yeah, I was sorry to finish it that way. Do you want to get us started?
Sure. So I guess I already mentioned this in my spiel about the numbers, but office hours are often a great start for many different classes. Your professor will have some number of hours per week where they actually just hang out in their office and wait for people to stop by. And it is a perfect time, you know they're there and available. And when I have office hours, I actually love when people stop by. People come in groups, and it's a wonderful thing. Lots of discussions get going. All right, so it's not just you and the professor necessarily. It can be like your study group came with a question, or you ran into someone else there from the class. But it gets lots of wonderful discussions going.
Yeah, and about office hours, it's also important to say, office hours, as Dan said, are a set-aside time when you guarantee the professor is in their office, available to talk. Every single professor at Smith is delighted to talk to you outside of office hours. I tell students every semester in all my courses, you should never get to the end of the semester and tell me, oh, I never came to talk to you because your office hours didn't work for my schedule. Email me, we'll find another time to talk. And yet, you know, it's already intimidating enough, as Valerie said, to come and talk to a professor for some people, not for everyone, but for some people. And then if you add to that having to contact them and say, hey, I would like to talk to you, that can make it more intimidating. And all we can do is let you know over and over again, we want it, we expect it, it's what most Smith students do. It's a great resource. So yes, drop by during office hours, but also absolutely send an email to your professor and say, hey, I need to meet with you. Those office hours aren't good for me, or I need to meet with you and I want to meet with you one-on-one instead of, you know, with other people in a group or whatever. But yes, talking to your professor is one of the best resources you can use.
Absolutely.
Another one is tutoring. Most of the introductory math and science and engineering courses at Smith have tutors. And tutoring, again, there's this misperception that many people have that, oh, tutoring is for the weaker students. And it just doesn't hold up. If you look at who uses it, tutoring is just another way of talking through what you're learning in the class. You have experienced people who are, you know, there like the professors, but they're other students who've been through the course, who've learned the material, and who can help you figure things out. So it's another really useful resource. And the earlier you get comfortable using it, the more you can learn.
So another resource would be your peers. A lot of you, I'm not saying all of you, but a lot of you in high school, you succeeded by studying by yourself, by just getting into a room, either your bedroom or the library or something, and just in isolation, just working it. And that worked, that led to your success. That in part led to you being here with us, which is wonderful. But what I want to tell you is that some of the things that worked in high school will not work here at Smith. And so one of the things that I would like to urge you to think about is using your peers as a resource to study, that you study in groups, that you get a study buddy or some study buddies that are serious, and you work it together. because as I said, the things that you did in high school may not necessarily work here. The memorization that served you so well in high school may not necessarily work as well here. You're going to have to use your mind in a different way. And so to help you expand using your mind in different ways, it helps to have different people around you. So it's just something to think about, working with your peers to study.
Which would be a nice segue to another calculus resource.
Actually, sure, which one?
Oh, so many.
Calculus training groups.
Right, okay, that, I put this in my mind. So specifically in the introductory math classes in Calculus 1 and Calculus 2, we have a program that we launched just a couple of years ago called Calculus Training Groups. And you might feel comfortable finding some peers in your class, or say if you're in Calculus 1 in another Calculus 1 class, because they'll be very closely coordinated. You can work with people in the other classes, different instructor. But we also have something called Calculus Training Groups. And this is something that you can apply to be a part of, and you will actually be matched with a group. So there will be 4 students who are currently taking the class, and then 1 slightly more senior peer mentor. So this would be someone who took the class maybe a year or at most 2 years ago. And generally someone who sort of figured out a path that worked for them, how they can think about the material, how to organize their time, which is a huge thing when you get to college in particular. And you'll meet with them once a week at a regular time, and it's a commitment. It's something that you agree to do with these people that you sort of help each other through. And so it has a little bit more structure than, say, another study group, but it's very much in that vein, using other people in the class as a resource for all of your benefits.
Mm-hmm. And I think we used the word tutors, but I don't think we said Spinelli Center.
Oh, that's a really good point, yes.
Yeah, so the Spinelli Center is the quantitative learning center here on campus. And so it's the Spinelli Center that has all these different tutors.
Yes, and the Spinelli Center also leads those topic review sessions that Dan mentioned earlier. So during the fall, there'll be one day where they lead a session on trigonometry. There'll be one day when they lead a session on solving algebra equations and so on. They have many resources available through that center. I should also note with the Calculus Training Group model that it's been very successful. Students really like it, and in physics, we are just working on adopting that model. So it's starting this year that we'll have physics training groups very similar to that. So the question came in from the chat, where is the Spinelli Center? Unfortunately, it's a bit in flux because as you'll discover when you get onto campus, there is a massive construction project underway in the middle of campus, which has moved many things around. Does either of you know the exact room where the Spinelli Center is now?
It's in Sealing Hall on the 2nd floor. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. So
I think the more important answer to where is the Spinelli Center is that it is at smith.edu/QLC. And all the information, QLC stands for Quantitative Learning Center, all the information about physically where to find it, but more importantly, what it offers, when there are going to be different review sessions, when tutors are available for each of the classes. All of those things are at the Spinelli Center website at smith.edu/QLC.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah. I was thinking about jumping to this question because I've had 2 students email that to me just in the last day or 2. So we said in our initial email that we encourage you to take ALEKS by August 1st. I think we may have even used the word deadline. But the question is, well, what if I can't do that? What if that doesn't work for me? Can I still take it after that? And the answer is yes. It's not really a deadline. It's a suggestion. that you finish it by August 1st, just so you have time to use the learning modules as much as possible before you come to campus. As Dan mentioned, you'll be very busy once the semester starts, but you can take it whenever. You will have access to it, including, the earlier you take it, the better, but you could still take it when you are at Smith. Smith has paid for access to ALEKS for all Smith students. Anytime while you're at Smith, you may use this. And again, I would generally say the earlier the better. We encourage that you do at least the initial assessment by August 1st. But if you're traveling, if you're working until then, if for whatever reason that doesn't work for your schedule, take it when you can take it.
And you even said, it depends a little bit. One thing that's worth noting, we're sort of working under the assumption that people we've reached out to are taking a math course at some point. It might not be this first fall, and that's fine. If ALEKS would be more useful to you if you're taking a class in the spring or not until your sophomore year, maybe, depending on what you're thinking about in terms of your major, that's fine. This resource will be there. You won't receive an email about it again necessarily when you're in your sophomore year, but it is still available there as a resource, and you're always welcome to reach out to us and say, I remember hearing about this thing, can I still? Yes, the answer is yes, absolutely.
So I'm wondering, we're close to our end time. Should we pause for a moment to see if anybody wants to enter any additional questions? We said that people are welcome to do that, and we encourage it, but we've been talking.
I know, we've been talking a lot. So please, if you have some
questions. It's an occupational
questions,
hazard with professors.
please type them in. We'd love to hear from you. Should we take some of the other questions?
Sure, but feel free to jump in at any time with questions. So I think we more or less addressed this one about using ALEKS for placement. We don't do that at all. It has no interaction with that. The right way to do math placement is to talk to people in the math department. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a number of others. There are many people in the department.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's actually what most of these questions are about.
Mm-hmm.
ALEKS was taking a long time. Can I pick up where I left off? Yes, absolutely. If you start it and it's taking longer than you thought and you stop, you just go jump back in and pick up wherever you were. How important are the learning modules? I would strongly encourage that you at least try a few of them. They don't take they don't take too long. And again, I base that mostly on the feedback that we got from the people who used them. A very strong majority of them said that they were worth the time, that they were helpful in reviewing and preparing for math courses.
Some of you already use Khan Academy or go on YouTube and do extra studying that way. Those are resources. This ALEKS has modules, those can help. So all students find different ways to get help. And so modules, the ALEKS modules are one of those good ways.
Are you using ALEKS in calculus classes anyway?
Not specifically. So again, it's useful for those conversations, particularly the earlier in a semester, the better. So a number of people who happen to be taking a calculus class might stop by or set up an appointment sometime in the first week or two, and we can talk about what the resources might be that could help them and come up with some sort of a plan for how to use it. But it's not like it's any sort of graded component or anything like that in the class. So it's just a tool to help you get off on the right foot. It won't be used in the class itself.
And then the last question we have here, I'm planning on majoring in biology. Is calculus a requirement? No. But if instead of biology you do biochemistry, then yes, it is. And if you're majoring in biology because you want to do pre-health, then it becomes a requirement because it's a pre-health requirement, and because physics is a pre-health requirement, and physics at Smith requires calculus.
So just sort of wrapping up on that, it's easy to hear all of these different things, and how do you keep the requirements straight, and ask someone. You don't have to memorize this all in advance. You don't have to know exactly what your track is going to be. Your major could shift at some point, or what have you, and that's fine. If you want to talk through options, if you're just curious about how things work, ask someone. That's what we're here for.
And Dan mentioned conversations, which is great for that, but also when you get to Smith, you will have an advisor, and they're a wonderful, wonderful resource for this kind of question. They know the Smith system, and they know just where to look up. They haven't memorized the requirements of every major at Smith, but they know exactly where to look up the requirements of every major at Smith. And all those logistical questions, you don't need to worry, oh, maybe I could find this on my own. Maybe you could, but they can do it a lot quicker and easier. That's what we're here for. So ask.
Is that what you were going to say too, Valerie?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, you will have an advisor. You will get help. And you can reach out to virtually anybody.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us.
We look forward to seeing you.
See you in September.
And feel free to email with any other questions, or we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.